Welcome to the Market Mindset. We are the hub for news, results, and CEO interviews focusing the junior commodities sector. We provide market analysis and perspective that will help position you for solid returns. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can help support us by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and clicking the notification bell. For more info, you can visit our website. All links are in the description below. Now let's get into today's video.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, July 6th. How are you doing today, Austin?
Doing pretty good, Andrew. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Today, we want to kind of touch on a couple of themes and sector themes. You've got a couple articles and some big news that we're not hearing so much about over here. And part of that is because so much of our lives is being impacted by policy, by politics, and that's going to frame investment decisions. And certainly right now, there's not a lot of huge investment decisions to be made. I mean, I think most people kind of look to see the summer is going to be quite slow and onerous, to say the least. And there's some hope that fall, maybe there'll be a shift and there might be some momentum. So I don't think we need to belabor anything by acknowledging that we're really in the painful part of this reset mode, or this great reset they're attempting to do. But we always kind of try to look at also how it's being framed, some of the ideas, where they come from. And one of the constant themes we've had for a year is the food shortage and idea. So kind of tell us where we're at, and we'll go start down that path quickly here.
Well, yeah, it was something that kind of caught our attention over the last few days. For anyone that hasn't really been staying on top of it, is these protests in the Netherlands with farmers, Dutch farmers that have engaged in these protests, essentially attempting to block a number of critical, food warehouses and stuff like that, because they're upset with the latest, I believe they're EU-wide regulations that are demanding that nitrogen emissions essentially be cut from anywhere from 70 to 80%. Now, that's in the Netherlands. That is a majority of all the fertilizer that they use is nitrogen based. I mean, for anyone who's listened to kind of a bunch of our conversations with Brian from Ariane Phosphate, understands that there's a few different types of phosphate they're used, but in the Netherlands, the one that's consistently used the most is a nitrogen based fertilizer. So that's actually causing a potential cut in about up to 80% of production for Dutch farmers. And the Netherlands is in the top, depending on what numbers you look at, in the top 2 or 3 for agriculture producers in the world. And they're certainly the top one in Europe. Yes. So that's a rather alarming situation, especially when you consider the size of these protests that the farmers have kind of come out and said, we're not going to stand for these regulations and rules being put on us. It's going to absolutely cripple what we're able to do. And it's growing to quite a large size, and they're converging in on Amsterdam as well. It's kind of taking a bit of a play out of the Canadian trucker convoy playbook.
Yeah.
But very, very interesting situation to be paying attention to, and going to certainly add pressure and strain onto a larger food supply crisis that we've already seen across Europe and North America.
Yes, and you're not going to see much of that over here, of the impact that is, and what an impact they have for food supply. Now, couple that with the situation with Russia, Ukraine, which we've talked about ad nauseum, probably for some people, that already caused a major, correction or strife, or what do you want, or whatever term you want to use, something to be very cognizant of. Now, it's hard not to think, what is happening here? I mean, these policies and regulations are only being enforced into Western nations. They're not forcing China to do this. So it's very strange. So this is one of the coincidences that we like to kind of point out, is what is going on whenever we have obvious notion that there's an energy crisis. So they don't have a solution for that yet. We're just going to use coal now. And then we've got a food situation where it's, okay, so we're going to stop production of food. I mean, it's either complete incompetence, or the flip side is that it's total competence and it's a complete an uncontrolled demolition, in which case you go, why would you be working to cause your economy to fail? Why would you be working to stop food production during a time when there's already food production issues coming out of the Ukraine-Russia crisis? So, I mean, try to leave intent out of it, but it certainly is very troubling to put 2 and 2 together to see what's going on over there.
Yeah, it is for sure. And I mean, even if you're taking it from the sense of just that this is to reduce nitrogen emissions across the board, early estimates suggest that could lead to shutting down about 30% of livestock farms in the Netherlands. That's a huge amount. And again, it's from if we leave intent out of it or anything like that, we just look back and say, what would a logical thing to do in a food crisis situation that has already been made worse by, as you mentioned, the situation in Ukraine? What part of that makes any sort of sense to be pushing ahead with this now? If you really want to do that, okay, let's wait until maybe things have calmed down. Maybe we've secured the food structure a little bit better, and then we can say, all right, let's really tackle this nitrogen emissions problem. But to be pushing ahead with that in the current situation doesn't seem to make any logical sense when you break it down like that.
Yes, and just as kind of info on this as well, as the farmer confidence in the U.S. is at second lowest in nearly 6 years, which is interesting enough. They're seeing also a real push in biofuels are driving up vegetable oil prices. So the interesting use of, like, even with phosphate being able to use for battery energy metals, we're seeing that also the biofuel market with vegetable oils, we're seeing that it can be used in interesting ways, but also that puts a stress on the food market. One of the graphs I want to bring up is an interesting one from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. Now, I don't really care too much for any UN information, to be perfectly honest, but well, let's use them. So the food index, if we look at this chart here, and we're just bringing it up right now, is astronomical. It's the highest it's ever been. So if we just scroll on down a little bit farther, we'll get to this chart here. We're up on that top right now. That other big top peak you see, that's 1975. So this is where we're going, and make no mistake, it's not like we've peaked and we're stopped. This is just starting, and we're seeing the food issues now come to, like, it's not even that they come to a head. We see that they're trying to disrupt it even more. And it'd be one thing to say we're disrupting it, and here's the solution. There's no solution. There was no solution for the energy crisis that has happened in Germany and in Europe. They don't have a solution for it. And as someone who works in this side of it, where there are solutions that can come about, that are being developed, they're not ready and available right now. So it's just interesting to point this out and to look at what's happening, to look at the cost of food, and then for people to see, holy smokes, what is going on? It's obviously very, very, very scary, to say the least.
Well, and it's something that I think a lot of people don't realize is compounding with inflation. It's not just inflation. Like, I think that's something that a lot of your average person who wouldn't look into this or try to understand it is going to sit there and say, "Oh, well, yeah, my price of chicken is up 10%, and my price of bacon's up 12%, and milk's up 8% or whatever." But that's all just because of inflation. And then if you tote rhetoric, well, that's all just because of Russia and Putin. But what you don't realize is that not only do we have an inflation problem, on top of that, you have this food price problem. So those two issues are compounding and putting more stress and strain than we've ever seen on the average person being able to just buy groceries. And as that continues, and as that those problems continue to build on top of each other, it's going to like landslide in a way that could get very out of control for your average citizen very quickly.
And on top of that, too, we see that, the winner right now to this, despite all the mainstream news narrative, is Russia. I mean, Russia is making money hand over fist. They're outplaying the West handily right now. Also, they are unfortunately, with the war, no one likes to see war, but they are winning on that front too. So they've also threatened to demand rubles for grain and other exports. So there was an article by Reuters, Reuters is extremely biased publication, where it was saying that Russia had defaulted on their debt. Well, they hadn't. They had the money, but they were just enforcing to be paid in rubles. And they responded saying, no, we've given you the money and we've it's in rubles. So what they're saying is we won't accept it because it's in rubles. They didn't default. It's just now that becomes down to a semantics type of argument, but they're doing the same now for the food. And they're saying, since we've got a stranglehold on this now, we demand, and that's in part to say we're separating. We're no longer interested in working together. And they found a welcome home with BRICS. So the Chinese and Indian economies are looking with Russia to move forward, possibly create their own coin, possibly create their own separate system. And they have been amassing gold for years and years and years, while countries like Canada got rid of all of theirs. And why I say that is because that has been the backbone of every country since history. So, and I know that people say it's boring and it's old and no one looks at that. It's not true. It's simply not true. It isn't exciting. Yes. It is old. Yes. But if you're a foundational banker, if you're someone who reads history, there's a reason why all these central banks have been buying gold. Other countries like Russia, like China, like India, there's a reason why they have. And if you don't recognize that reason, that's your fault. That's your problem. Now, before we jump into, there is, and I've been working on a lot of this food, interesting coincidences as well that's been going on. And this is quite easily can be dismissed by those that don't want to hear it, the conspiracy talk and all this. But we're just going to focus on the facts, on the amount of strange occurrences between fires, disruption, railroad demolitions. There's a number of very, very strange coincidences in regards to the food supply. And
there has been.
So go ahead.
No, I was just it's something that's been very interesting, and I know you've kind of taken the lead on this one, but I've been paying attention to it as well, and it's very shocking the level of incidents that have happened across North America with different food processing plants and transportation and stuff like that. So we've got a video I think we're going to jump into, and then we'll play this.
Just for a minute. It's really graceful. She's amazing. She's really great. She's got a great voice too. Her videos are amazing. They're so informative. We're just going to play a minute of it because it's very well done and you should check out her other work as well. But just to set the framework here, and we'll just watch about a minute and then I'll jump into an article, strange coincidence of food.
Hey internet friends, I've released 2 videos on the food processing plants in the United States mysteriously catching fire over the past year. And I thought I'd just combine those 2 videos to create a comprehensive list of incidents between 2021 and June, almost July 2022. Right now, this very moment, mainstream media is running segments and articles around the clock to fact check and debunk this information, saying there's no evidence to suggest that these fires were premeditated in order to create national famine. And that's kind of like when an abusive partner gaslights you. I mean, our own president came out and warned us about food shortages due to lockdown over the past 2 years, supply chain issues and world war. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, around the same time, came out and said the same thing about impending food shortages. The FBI came out in April with a publication warning about increased cyber attack threats on agricultural institutions. And yet, mainstream media around the clock runs these articles covering these.
So I just wanted to give that quick minute. I mean, believe me, I could keep watching. It's very interesting. But she dives deep into this. And I love doing fact checks on fact checks. I've loved it during COVID. It's entertaining because they're easy to destroy and to dismantle and pull apart. And I like to see what the flip side, what the mainstream is trying to pitch and see if they've got anything of value there. So with this, and we're working on this article, so I won't do the whole article. We'll send it out to you. It's free, obviously, for people. Just send us an email, sign up to our website, go check out themarketmindset.ca. We'll have it up there in the next couple of days. So one of them basically kind of dismissed this, and I'll take away the intentional ones where they reframe it like a straw man and say, here's all the incidents, which they admit. There's a long list of strange incidences that are occurring. Some of them they counter and say this was an accident, this was that. Some have actual reasonable reasons for it. The two were planes flying into the actual plants, that's very strange. But okay, we'll leave those alone. What they do is they try to attack the conclusion, which is people are making these claims and then saying it's because Bill Gates is buying food and he's trying to control the world and it's part of it. And you go, and then they attack that. So they say this is a conspiracy theory because here's the conclusion. And I always tell people, don't ever do that. Don't make the conclusion. You don't know why. Yeah. So we don't bother asking the why. We just say, I don't know why people are doing this. I don't know who's responsible. I don't work at that capacity. But what I do know is I can look at data and see what is happening. Is this true? So when you get to the data, what they try to pitch is they say there are 39,000 incidents of fire in particular, because a lot of these have been fire, like total production plants burning down. And you go, oh, well, okay, 39,000 fires a year. Like that's okay. Wow. If you're listing 90 incidences in total, and I think 16 are plants or situations, and they're not all fire, you go, then yeah, okay, 39,000. That seems awfully high. I didn't realize there's that many. And I looked at that, and you go, all right, let's go look at the fires in industrial and manufacturing properties by incident type and their averages. And lo and behold, you go, yeah, between 2011 and 2015, 37,900, and up until lately, 39,000. You go, that's incredible. Like that's a huge number.
That's massive. On paper, that's a massive amount of fires.
Yeah. So then my brain is like, oh my goodness. Yeah, that isn't very strange. I mean, I would still want to know it breaking down by sector, like how many, like in the food sector. Now you can't get that. And I reached out to insurance companies for claims and everything, and no one's going to give me that information. I'm not that big. I don't have a big name attached to me or any kind of enforcement, because that's where you would look. You'd go, okay, let's look at claims. But what you do is looking a little bit further at that actual data they've posted. Only 20% of that 30,000 number is referring to a building. So all of a sudden, that 39,000 number gets shrunken down remarkably.
Yeah.
So only 7,000 have to do with any type of structure fire.
Right.
So then you go, oh, so now that number is down to 7,000 very rapidly. So it's, and we go into it here, like, in the article, and I won't do it. I will save it for you now. But you kind of break it down to see how they try to mislead you with some of this data. And you go, no, this is still very interesting. It is. The more I look at it, the more curious it is. And I'm not saying that people are doing this on purpose or this or that. I don't know. I have no idea. But if things, there aren't coincidences. Like there just aren't. I mean, any kind of analyst, investigative type, you're looking at a situation in the world where we have all of these issues. We have supply chain issues. We have food issues. We have a bad flu season that they're trying to push again, and they're forcing. There's so much going on. They've already pre-warned us about the food issue as well. And then you have all of these strange incidences with food and food processing plants and a fertilizer train derailment up in northern Alberta. And it's just one after the other. And you think, I don't need to make any conspiracy theory. I don't need to go why or how or who. It's definitely strange. It hasn't happened before.
No, and even if let's operate under the situation where it is just a massive coincidence, the facts are still there that's not going to help the situation.
Yes.
Regardless, even if it's completely coincidental, there's nothing which it could totally be. Sure, let's say that. But even if that, the fact of the matter is going to be massive strain continued to put on the food supply issue. And it brings me back to, I believe it's a Henry Kissinger quote, and I wish I had it in front of me. But Henry Kissinger is a former Secretary of State in the U.S., He had a quote one time that said, control oil and you control nations. We're seeing that very clearly laid out. Control food and you control the people. And that's starting to become very, very obvious as we go forward. I know there's some situations regarding oil and natural gas and stuff we won't get into today. We'll probably save that for Friday's show.
Yeah.
But it's something that everyone needs to be paying attention to and watching these trends and how things are going and understanding the very complex, yes, economics behind this, but very simple fact of the matter is this situation is continuing to deteriorate. It's not getting better, and it's not really showing signs of getting better anytime soon. And that's because we become too dependent on this global system.
Yes. And even if and I've said it before, even if you're attempting to do this great shift, which we're proponents of, I mean, we want them to do all this mining and to get all these metals and to give it a shot. You need very competent people to pull that off, and you need a very long-term plan. We have neither. And that's a big solution. Now, we'll leave that, like you said, leave that there. But we wanted to point that out because like food, shelter, and energy are the mainstay that we've taken for granted. And it's fragile to say the least right now. And I'm not trying to fearmonger. This is just what's out there. But we'll leave this on a bit of a positive note because we always like to look at things from a different perspective too. And like you said, we've had Brian on talking about how their phosphate, especially their high-grade phosphate, can be used in battery energy metals. We're also seeing from a producer.com article that ammonia can expand beyond agriculture as well, that it has electric components. So we're finding ammonia has use. And as we know, Russia and Ukraine has a lot of ammonia there as well. And I want to kind of point that out because it's we don't want to leave this all on a negative tone. And the other thing I kind of wanted to mention too was that they're finding with salts that there's also a benefit there with salt. And the article that we had, was in regards to Compass Minerals and their salts. And I'm trying to find that article. And Compass Minerals is a salt and magnesium, also sulfates and of potash as well in the States. It's $1 billion company. And they're finding.
And that was with LG. Was it LG Energy that signed a battery grade supply deal with Compass Minerals?
Yes, an MOU of a memorandum of understanding with LG with battery grade lithium to up to 2032. So very interesting that they've mined battery grade lithium from its brine project in Utah, and they've signed a deal with LG. So very interesting, which is a salt company. This Compass is a salt and mineral company, and gives us a reason to talk about Atlas Salt as well, which is that salt project, which, funny enough, all during this huge downturn has done well. It's standing its ground, and we're not even saying or suggesting it has any lithium properties to it, but just the demand for salt is so great. But also that spin out for its Fisher play, which can hold hydrogen or natural gas. Those caverns, underground caverns, are great storage facilities. So we wanted to mention a couple good things that are going on out there, along with the rough and tough. But make no mistake, we're in it right now, and there's a lot more news out there that is, some's a lot dramatic, and there's lots of misinformation. But we've tried to kind of always harness this by saying we don't know the intent. We don't know those that are calling the shots, how competent, incompetent they are. We don't know. What we do know is this is going on, and that there is a very misleading and misinformation campaign over what is happening, whether it's just because they don't want to frighten people, which could be, like, we don't want to cause a mass panic. That's fair enough. Or for other more sinister terms, I don't know. And we're not trying to, fearmonger here. We're just trying to let people know you have to do a bit of research, show a lot of interest, stop listening to all the noise out there, all the fancy, silly, arguments and whatnot, and to look to see what's happening. And this is happening right now. And once you have that information, you can make an informed decision.
Yeah, you absolutely can. And that's, that's what we're going to continue to try to do, is highlight these stories from the economic perspective, from the supply chain perspective, from the kind of interlocking, how it all is going to work together, and just continue to draw attention to it and point out this is what we should be looking at. pull back a lot of the razzle dazzle behind it and just try to give the facts. And like you said, operate under circumstances. We don't know what exactly the intention is. Anyone who tries to tell you they know probably has no clue. They're just making assumptions to fit their own narratives as well. But just to look at the facts and then try to make informed decisions based off of that.
And to try to remove yourself from the political.
Exactly.
Some of these don't have to be. We're not saying it's because of X, Y, Z. One could argue it's irrelevant who you'd have in power right now. This could be happening anyway. So for those, just try to take a step back and look at it, without that kind of political, I'm being attacked and my feelings are hurt kind of thing. So let's wrap it up and just remind people we're going to be out there, Stampede. You're already there. You're getting ready. And our event on Tuesday. So we're looking forward. We've got quite a few people who've reached out that we'll see. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll just get to meet in person. Hopefully it'll be sunny and enjoy Stampede.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. So as I mentioned last time, reach out to us, send us an email if you're interested. We'll get you RSVP'd for it. We're looking forward to meeting as many people as possible, enjoying Stampede. I know you guys are excited to get out here. The city's starting to really build up. You're going to feel it this week. So it's awesome. It's exciting. And yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
Excellent. All right. Well, everyone, take care out there and enjoy the summer as best you can. And we'll hopefully see you in Calgary.
Yeah. Take care, guys.